As a scholar who has spent a lifetime navigating the vast and intricate tapestry of Buddhist thought, I have always found that the deepest insights often lie not only in the Buddha's profound discourses on emptiness or dependent origination, but also in the poignant and powerful narrative of his life. And no part of that narrative is more instructive, more intensely human, or more philosophically resonant than its final chapter. The story of the Buddha's last days, his parinirvana, is far more than a simple account of a great man's death. It is the ultimate teaching, the final, living demonstration of the very truths he had spent 45 years elucidating. The term parinirvana, or final blowing out, signifies the complete cessation of the psychophysical aggregates, khandhas, without any remainder or possibility of rebirth. It is the definitive end of the cycle of samsara. While the Buddha attained nirvana under the Bodhi tree at the age of 35, extinguishing the defilements of greed, hatred, and delusion, his body, the karmic result of past actions, remained. For the next 45 years, he lived in a state of nirvana with remainder. The parinirvana at Kusinara was the culmination of this process, the final laying down of the physical burden. To approach this story is to confront the heart of the Buddha's message, the universal, inescapable truth of impermanence, anicca. In the West, death is often seen as a failure, a tragedy to be mourned. But within the framework of the Dharma, the Buddha's passing was a natural, inevitable, and masterfully orchestrated event. It was his last great sermon, delivered not with words, but with his own body. In this exploration, we shall journey alongside the 80-year-old sage in his final months, drawing primarily from the canonical Mahaparinibbana Sutta of the Pali Canon, to witness how his every action, his final instructions, and the very manner of his passing served as a timeless blueprint for living with wisdom and dying with grace. The Final Days, the Parinirvana of the Buddha. Part 1. The Setting Sun, the beginning of the final journey. The final act begins at Gijakuta, the Vulture's Peak, a rugged hill overlooking the city of Rajagaya. This had been one of the Buddha's favorite retreats, a place of solitude and profound teaching. Now, at 80 years old, his body frail and bearing the marks of a long and arduous life, he prepared to leave it for the last time. Before his departure, he addressed the community of monks, his mind not on his own impending end, but on the future and endurance of the community he had founded. The Sangha. He laid out 7 essential conditions for the welfare of the community: that they should assemble frequently and in harmony, that they should uphold the established rules of conduct, the Vinaya, and introduce no new ones rashly, that they should honor their elders, that they should resist the pull of craving, that they should delight in solitude, and that they should cultivate mindfulness to ensure that virtuous ones would always feel welcome among them. This was not the discourse of a dying man lamenting his fate, but that of a wise and compassionate leader ensuring the foundations of his legacy were strong enough to last for millennia. From Rajagaya, the Buddha began his final journey, walking northward with a large retinue of monks, led by his faithful attendant of 25 years, the Venerable Ananda. The journey was slow, punctuated by stops in various towns and villages, and at each stop, the Buddha taught tirelessly. At the mango grove of Ambalathika, he spoke on the foundations of virtue, sila, concentration, samadhi, and wisdom, panya, and how their cultivation leads to the great fruit of liberation. At Nalanda, which would later become the site of the world's greatest Buddhist university, a poignant exchange took place with Sariputta, one of his 2 chief disciples. Sariputta, renowned for his wisdom, approached the Buddha and declared with supreme confidence, a lion's roar, that there had never been, nor would there ever be, any ascetic or Brahmin more enlightened than the Blessed One. The Buddha, ever the pragmatist, gently questioned him, did Sariputta have direct knowledge of the minds of all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future? Sariputta admitted he did not, and that his declaration was one of reasoned faith, based on his understanding of the Dharma. This interaction is a beautiful illustration of the Buddhist path, which values not blind belief, but faith born of direct experience and critical inquiry. The journey continued to the prosperous city of Vesali, a place the Buddha loved. Here, while staying at the Kapala shrine, one of the most fateful and pathos-laden events of his life unfolded. The Buddha remarked to Ananda on the beauty of Vesali and its many shrines. He then stated, in a clear but subtle manner, that anyone who had mastered the 4 bases of spiritual power, Iddhipada, could, if he so wished, remain alive for an entire world eon, kappa, or the remainder of one. It was a profound hint, a clear offering. A fully enlightened Buddha, having supreme mastery over the mind-body connection, had the capacity to extend his own lifespan for the benefit of the world. All that was required was a formal request from a disciple. 3 times he made this statement to Ananda, and 3 times, Ananda failed to comprehend the significance of the remark. The sutta states that his mind was possessed by Mara, the tempter, who clouded his perception and prevented him from making the crucial request. Ananda, the devoted, kind-hearted, but not yet enlightened disciple, simply remained silent. This is a moment of profound tragedy. Yet it serves as a powerful teaching on the human condition. Even the best among us, the closest to the source of wisdom, can be blinded by subtle obscurations, by a momentary lapse of mindfulness. Seeing that the invitation would not be accepted, the Buddha dismissed Ananda. Shortly thereafter, Mara approached the Buddha, unseen by others. He reminded the Buddha of a promise made shortly after his enlightenment, that he would not pass into final nirvana until the holy life he had established was prosperous, widespread, and well proclaimed among gods and humans. That condition has now been fulfilled. O Blessed One, Mara urged, let the Blessed One now pass away into parinirvana. The Buddha, with perfect calm and composure, replied, trouble yourself not, O evil one. The parinirvana of the Tathagata will be in 3 months' time. In that moment, at the Kapala shrine, the Buddha consciously and deliberately relinquished his will to live on, renouncing his life principle, Ayu Sankara. At the instant of his decision, the earth quaked violently. A terrified Ananda rushed back to the Buddha and asked the cause of the great earthquake. The Buddha explained the 8 causes for such an event, the last and final one being when a Buddha consciously renounces his will to live. The terrible truth dawned on Ananda. Overcome with grief and regret, he fell to his knees and desperately implored the Buddha to remain for the good and happiness of the many. But it was too late. The decision had been made. The word given. The Buddha gently rebuked him. Have I not taught you from the very beginning that it is the nature of all things that are near and dear to us that we must be separated from them? How can it be, Ananda, that what is born, what is subject to decay, should not pass away? That is not possible. The cosmic law of impermanence, which applied to stars and mountains, applied equally to the body of a Buddha. Part 2. The last bequest, the final teachings. Having fixed the date of his passing, the Buddha's focus shifted entirely to consolidating his teachings and ensuring the Sangha was prepared to continue without him. He instructed Ananda to gather all the monks dwelling in the vicinity of Vesali in the great assembly hall. There, he delivered a series of final exhortations that represent the heart of his last bequest to the world. He urged them to thoroughly learn, cultivate, and practice the doctrines he had taught, specifically mentioning the 37 factors of enlightenment, Bodhipakkhya Dhamma, so that the holy life might endure for a long time for the welfare and happiness of all beings. He looked upon his assembly of monks and declared that his life was coming to an end. My journey is over. My time is up. I am 80 years old. Just as a worn-out cart is held together with straps, so too is the body of the Tathagata held together. It was here that he delivered one of his most powerful and enduring messages, a declaration of spiritual autonomy and self-reliance. He said to Ananda, therefore, Ananda, dwell as an island unto yourselves, as a refuge unto yourselves, seeking no other refuge. Dwell with the Dharma as your island, with the Dharma as your refuge, seeking no other refuge. Atajipa Viharatha, Atasarana Ananyasarana, Dhammadipa, Dhammasarana, Ananyasarana. This statement is a radical departure from theistic traditions that rely on divine grace or an external savior. The Buddha was empowering his disciples, telling them that the source of their liberation lay within themselves and within the teachings he had laid bare. There was no secret doctrine, no hidden power he possessed that would vanish with his death. The path was the Dharma, and the vehicle was one's own effort. A monk then asked the inevitable question, after the Blessed One is gone, who will be our teacher? The Buddha's reply was unequivocal. He did not appoint a successor, a pope, to lead the Sangha. To do so would have been to create a cult of personality. a hierarchy that could lead to corruption and doctrinal disputes. Instead, he declared, "The Dharma and the Vinaya which I have taught and laid down for you. Let them be your teacher after I am gone." This was a masterstroke of wisdom. It established the primacy of the teachings over any individual, ensuring that the Buddhist tradition would remain a living, practice-oriented path rather than a system of devotion to a person. He comforted them, reminding them that his physical body was merely a vessel. The true Buddha, the principle of awakenment, was the Dharma itself. "He who sees the Dharma, sees me," he had said on another occasion. By making the Dharma their guide, they would always be in his presence. These final teachings at Vesali were his ultimate act of empowerment, weaning his disciples from their emotional dependence on his physical form and pointing them firmly toward the timeless refuge of the truth itself. Part 3. The Last Meal and the Final Crossing. Despite his age and growing frailty, the Buddha continued his journey, turning his gaze for the last time on the city of Vesali before walking towards the small town of Pava. Along the way, he continued to instruct the monks who accompanied him, his energy for teaching seemingly inexhaustible. In Pava, a blacksmith named Kunda, a devout follower, learned of the Buddha's arrival and invited him and the community of monks for a meal the following day. Kunda prepared a special dish for the Buddha, known in the Pali text as Sukaramadava. The exact nature of this food has been the subject of scholarly debate for centuries. The term can be translated as soft pig's flesh, or alternatively, as pig's delight, which has been interpreted to mean a type of truffle or mushroom that pigs enjoy foraging for. Given the monastic prohibition against accepting meat from an animal specifically killed for them, many scholars lean towards the latter interpretation. What is beyond dispute, however, is the Buddha's handling of the situation. Possessing clairvoyant knowledge, he understood that the food was tainted and would be difficult to digest. He instructed Kunda to serve the Sukaramadava only to him, and to serve the other monks the rest of the prepared food. After he had finished eating, he told Kunda to bury whatever was left, for no one else in the world, be they god or human, could digest it. Shortly after the meal, the Buddha was struck by a violent illness. A severe dysentery set in, and he experienced excruciating, sharp pains. Yet, even in the midst of this intense physical suffering, the text notes that he bore the pain mindfully, with clear comprehension, and without complaint. His mastery over his own mind was absolute. He did not allow the physical agony to overwhelm his consciousness. This was a living demonstration of the distinction between pain, a physical sensation, and suffering, the mental reaction to that pain. His body was in pain, but his mind remained serene, a refuge of peace, as he prepared to continue the journey toward his chosen place of passing. Kusinara, a thought of profound compassion arose in his mind. He knew that Kunda the smith would be consumed by remorse and that others might blame him for the Buddha's death. He turned to Ananda and made a specific point of addressing this. "Ananda," he said, "it is possible that someone might stir up remorse in Kunda the smith by saying, 'It is no gain for you, Kunda, but a loss, that the Tathagata passed away after eating his last meal from you. If this happens, you must dispel his remorse.'" The Buddha then declared that two offerings in the world are of the greatest and most equal merit: the offering of food given to a bodhisattva just before he attains full enlightenment, and the offering given to a Tathagata just before he passes into parinirvana. He instructed Ananda to tell Kunda that he had gained a great karmic blessing, one that would lead to long life, beauty, happiness, and heaven. This extraordinary act of compassion, to think of the emotional well-being of a simple blacksmith while in the throes of a fatal illness, is one of the most moving episodes in the entire Pali Canon. It reveals a being for whom compassion was not an abstract ideal, but the very ground of his existence. Active and radiant until his final moments, weakened but resolute, he continued on, reaching and crossing the Kakuta River. He bathed and rested, his clarity of mind a stark contrast to his failing body, ready for the final stage of his earthly existence. Part 4. The Lion's Couch, the Passing at Kusinara. The Buddha and his followers finally arrived at a Sao Grove on the outskirts of Kusinara, a small, unassuming town of the Mala people. Ananda, ever concerned with the dignity of his master, was distressed. "Lord," he pleaded, "let the Blessed One not pass away in this little wattle and daub town. In the midst of the jungle, there are other great cities. Let the Blessed One pass away in one of them. The Buddha gently corrected him, explaining that in a previous eon, this very spot had been Kusavati, the royal capital of a great universal monarch. He was teaching that the significance of a place is not in its present appearance, but in the events that transpire there. He then asked Ananda to prepare a couch for him between two twin sal trees, with its head to the north. This is the lion's couch posture in which he would pass away, lying on his right side, one leg over the other, mindful and clearly comprehending. As he lay down, the twin sal trees, though it was not their season, burst into full bloom, showering his body with blossoms. Divine flowers and sandalwood powder rained down from the heavens, and celestial music sounded in the air. The Buddha, however, used this moment for one more vital teaching. He told Ananda that these supernatural phenomena were not the true way to honor a Tathagata. The monk or nun, the layman or laywoman, who lives in accordance with the Dharma, he explained, it is they who truly honor, revere, and venerate the Tathagata with the highest honor. Once again, he redirected attention away from external displays and back to the internal practice of the path. At this point, the immense weight of the impending event finally broke Ananda's composure. He retreated into a lodging and wept, leaning against the doorpost, overcome with grief. Alas, I am still a learner, with much to do, and my teacher is about to pass away. He who is so compassionate to me. The Buddha, noticing his absence, called for him. When Ananda appeared, his face streaked with tears. The Buddha offered him the most tender consolation. He praised Ananda's 25 years of selfless service, rendered with loving kindness in thought, word, and deed. You have done well, Ananda, he assured him. Strive on with diligence, and you too will soon be free from the cankers. He reminded him, yet again, of the universal law of impermanence. That separation from all that is dear is inevitable. Even as his life ebbed away, the Buddha's compassionate mission continued. A wandering ascetic named Subhata heard that the great sage was on his deathbed nearby and was determined to see him to have a doubt clarified. The monks, not wanting to trouble their dying master, tried to turn him away, but the Buddha overheard their conversation and insisted that Subhata be allowed to enter. Do not turn him away, he said. Whatever he asks will be from a desire for knowledge, and he will be quick to understand my answers. Subhata asked if the other famous spiritual teachers of the time had, as they claimed, found the truth. The Buddha set aside the question as irrelevant and instead taught him the core of his own discovery, that in whatever doctrine and discipline the Noble Eightfold Path is not found, there are no true ascetics of the first, second, third, or fourth degree of enlightenment. He then expounded the path to Subhata, who was so inspired that he asked for and received ordination on the spot. He quickly entered into meditation and, before the Buddha passed away, became an arahant, a fully enlightened being. Subhata had the unique distinction of being the Buddha's very last direct disciple. The end was now near. The Buddha addressed the assembly of monks one last time. He gave them permission to abolish the minor and lesser monastic rules if they saw fit after his passing, a detail that would later cause some debate. He instructed them on how his bodily remains should be treated, cremated with the honors befitting a universal monarch, with stupas erected at the crossroads. Then, with immense compassion, he offered them a final chance to clarify any lingering uncertainties. It may be, monks, that some of you have a doubt or a question about the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, or the path. Ask now, so that you may not have any regrets later. He asked them not once, but 3 times. Complete silence filled the Sal Grove. The Venerable Ananda exclaimed, "It is wonderful, Lord, there is not a single monk in this assembly who has any doubt or question." The Buddha confirmed that this was so, that even the most backward of the 500 monks present was a stream enterer, destined for enlightenment. Then, the Buddha uttered his final, immortal words, words that have echoed through 25 centuries as the ultimate summary of his teaching and his final exhortation to humanity. Handadani, Bhakave, Amantayami vo, Vayadama Sankara, Apamadina Sampaditha. Behold now, O monks, I exhort you. All conditioned things are subject to decay. Strive on with diligence. With these words, he fell silent. His passing was not a simple cessation of breath. as a supreme master of meditation. He passed through the successive stages of deep meditative absorption, the jhanas. He entered the first, second, third, and fourth jhanas, then the formless spheres of the infinity of space, the infinity of consciousness, the sphere of nothingness, and the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, until he reached the state known as the cessation of feeling and perception. The Venerable Ananda, thinking he had passed, said so, but the Venerable Aniruddha, who had supreme psychic vision, corrected him, saying the Blessed One was in the state of cessation. Then, the Buddha's consciousness moved in reverse, descending back through the formless and formed jhanas until he reached the first jhana. From there, he ascended again to the fourth jhana, and it was from that state of profound, pure equanimity that his consciousness finally ceased. The Buddha had passed into parinirvana. There was a great earthquake, and the god Brahma uttered a verse on the impermanence of all beings. The unenlightened monks wept and lamented, but the arahants, those who had already tasted nirvana, remained serene, reflecting on the truth that all conditioned things must pass away. Conclusion. The echo of the lion's roar. The parinirvana of the Buddha is not a story of an end, but a lesson in the nature of endings themselves. It is the ultimate teaching on impermanence, delivered not as a doctrine, but as a direct, irrefutable demonstration. In his final days, the Buddha modeled the very ideals he had taught. He showed fortitude and mindfulness in the face of excruciating pain, boundless compassion for those around him, and a clear-headed, selfless focus on securing the future of the Dharma. He did not die as a victim of old age and sickness, but as a master of the process, choreographing his final exit with grace and profound purpose. His passing underscored the most radical aspects of his message, by refusing to appoint a successor and pointing instead to the Dharma and Vinaya as the ultimate guide. He ensured that his path would never become a dogmatic religion centered on a single personality. By exhorting his disciples to be an island unto themselves, he championed a path of radical self-reliance and inner authority. He was not a savior who dispensed grace, but a guide who showed the way, insisting that the journey must be walked by each individual. The parinirvana was not an extinguishment into a void, but the final, peaceful, blowing out of the very flame of conditioned existence. It was the complete, irreversible cessation of dukkha. It was the final affirmation that the problem of suffering, diagnosed under the Bodhi tree 45 years earlier, was indeed solvable. His last words, Vayadhamma Sankara, Apamadina Sampaditha, are the Buddha's ultimate legacy. The first part, all conditioned things are subject to decay, is the diagnosis of reality, the unvarnished truth of existence. The second part, strive on with diligence, is the prescription. It is a call to action, an urgent, compassionate plea to not be complacent in the face of this universal impermanence. It is the echo of his lion's roar of awakening, a sound that does not fade with time, but continues to reverberate in the hearts of all who seek to walk the path from suffering to liberation. The physical form of the teacher passed away in the Sal Grove, but the teacher that is the Dharma remains, as accessible and potent today as it was 25 centuries ago, awaiting only our own diligent effort to be realized.